Once more, I'm with Ian McGonnigal from George P. Johnson. Good afternoon, Ian.
Hi, Joyce.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good, good, good. Well, one of the topics that we're going to talk about is storytelling. I love a good story. So tell us, with event marketing, how does that intertwine with storytelling?
Thanks, Joyce. And I think that there are several ways. I think, first of all, as event marketers, and especially experiential marketers, we need to do as good a job telling the story as possible. And a story can be as simple as a case study, when you're telling somebody about a situation that one of your customers were involved in, the solution, of course, which is your product, and then the great results they got from that product. That is about as simple as a story as you can create. But storytelling can be expanded well beyond the face-to-face event and into the social community. And there's a couple of ways, or several ways to do that. And it's really quite simple. If you take a look at what we all learned back in grade school about storytelling, there are several things that come to mind that you should really take a look at when you're building stories in and around your events. The first of which is to have a purpose. If you're going to tell a story, you need to have a purpose of that story. Whether you're at a bar with some friends telling a joke, the purpose, of course, is to get them to laugh and then maybe buy you a drink, right? If you are looking to sell something at an event, the purpose, of course, is to drive sales. So the story should be as relevant to potential customers as possible. So whether you're face-to-face or online, make sure you're thinking strategically about what the purpose is of your story. Are you going to tell it all at once? Are you going to tell it in chapters or pieces where some of it's online, some of it lives offline? It's important, again, to make sure you have a purpose to that story. The second is to have a theme. So beyond the purpose, what is the theme of your story? Is it cohesive? Is it something that people can follow and understand? Is there a real reason for people to believe in what you have to say? The same goes for events as well as online. Finally, third.
No. We got a few more points to go.
I know, my goodness. Third, simplicity. Keep it simple. The more complex stories are, especially in the online space, the more likely you are to lose visitors. Twitter is 140 characters or less. It's hard to tell a whole story there, but you can tell a part of it. There's another site out there I discovered, which might be appropriate for me, a few weeks ago, called Woofer, which allows you to post at least 1,400 characters as your status. So depending on the size and scope of your story, there's a tool for you, but keep in mind, on the web, make sure that the message matches the medium. So you want to build your story so that they're segmented in appropriate parts and are as simple as possible. Don't tell any more information that's needed, don't tell anything less. It's important to be creative and descriptive and keep people engaged, but don't go overboard. You're not writing a novel, you're telling a story to try to most likely sell something if you're listening to this. Also, structure and plot. So make sure your story has a structure. If you remember the structure, again, from grade school of how you have an action, a reaction, and all of those different things.
Good and evil.
It's important, yeah, good and evil. Make sure your story does have a structure. In the simplest terms, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And somewhere in the middle, there'd be a climax that people would have resolved. Use the right tools to tell your story. It's not always text-based. Sometimes a video can tell a story. Sometimes a simple photograph can tell a story. Sometimes it's a link. Sometimes it's a PowerPoint. So look at whatever tools are available and make sure you're using the right tool to tell your story. There are several presentations out there that tend to be text-heavy. I've written many of them. And I myself have learned over my career that building a story is not about writing every word down. It's about leaving something to the imagination so people, regardless of how they learn and understand, can really absorb the key messages that you're trying to get across. Engagement. Involve your communities or your audiences in your story. Wherever possible, leave something to the imagination. Let them imagine themselves in the situation that your customers are, or that your prospects are, or that you're in, so that they can internalize the story and understand it and really see themselves as part of the story. Protagonist. I believe in using the customer or your audience as the hero. If they can envision themselves as the hero, you're going to go a long way, because then they can act upon that story as soon as you begin telling it. As far as the antagonist is concerned, every story needs an antagonist. You need someone to be the villain or the supervillain. And that villain might be a process that your company solves. It might be a pain point that you have with a software package or something you do in your business. It might be that you don't know how to do something. So remember, the villain is as important as a protagonist. You need to make sure that the two are there together and hopefully the protagonist wins. And then be human above all else. When you're telling a story, whether it's face-to-face or online, it's okay to speak in simple terms. Be human. Sometimes using big, long words, although you might feel that it makes you sound impressive, are not the right thing to do. Speak plainly, speak in English or in whatever foreign language that you might be used to using, but above all, be human. And then finally, authenticity is king. If you're telling a story and it's not believable, or it's made up, or there isn't a component in there that makes it, again, human, makes it authentic, makes it truthful, then you're going to lose your audience and you're going to lose credibility, and you might not have the opportunity to tell further stories if you lose that authenticity. And that, in a nutshell, is how to tell stories online and face-to-face.
Good. Well, one question, I'm going to put him on the hot seat.
Sure.
Who's a good storyteller? What company?
What company is a good storyteller? One of my old companies I worked for, called Bose Corporation, is a good storyteller. They prefer long copy. They use a lot of pictures and videos as well. But if you look at how they tell their story online and face-to-face, it's a wonderful story. They tell parts of it. They go deep into engineering if you're interested. They talk about very simple pain points if you're not. They are master storytellers at Bose.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks, Ian.
My pleasure. Thank you, John.